curious if XRP is the next golden child of crypto. Wouldn't the supply be gone by now due to the value? Is BlackRock saving some for the rest? Thanks. So, I get this question frequently. People are like, well, if they knew this was going to happen, everybody would be buying it. I'm pretty confident, and again, I could be wrong. I'm not the end-all be-all, right? This is just based on conversations that I've had and my research, that a lot of this has been pre-allocated. It's been negotiated. The institutions and enterprise players out there that are going to be leveraging this network to be able to facilitate value transfer and need a stake in it have already got a piece of XRP, BlackRock included. And that being said, if somebody were to front run the market or cause a supply shock or push the price up prior to when they really needed it, it won't work. They need a lot of demand for XRP all at one coordinated time in order to be able to push it to the value they need it to be in order to start using it. If they push it up 10, 20, 30 bucks and it falls back down because they didn't time the demand all at once, they're not going to be able to drive it to the price they need it to be. But an administrative repricing, my concern with an administrative repricing is it's a fixed value. It's not flexible. It needs to be dynamic in order to be able to continue to grow over time. And if it, this is the same reason I don't think it would ever be pegged to gold. You need the value of XRP to continue to be able to expand over time as more value moves on chain, more things are tokenized, there's more value in settlement between counterparties. If it's a fixed value, it makes it very rigid and it wouldn't fit the use case of an exchange rate peg. If you want to go look up a white paper that was written by the IMF in 2014, they talked about an exchange rate peg. Shortly after that, XRP was rebranded to XRP from Ripple's after it had been gifted to Ripple, and prior to that it was called XNS when it was originally minted. So all that being said, that's my rebuttal to the administrative repricing. Could they do it like they did gold, where they bought it back from the American public, which they wouldn't have to do that with XRP. They could just take it from Ripple. They could then change the price to a higher threshold like they did with gold, moving it from $20 to $35, and then they had to titrate it up a couple more times before they moved away from that standard. Because it wasn't malleable. It couldn't grow and expand with the balance sheet or GDP or the rest of the world's global economics. XRP can, if they don't take that same route. If they use supply and demand dynamics to be able to push the price to where they need it to be so that they can start using it, and then that volume dictates price over the long term, I think that's how this becomes elastic and dynamic and has the ability to continue to grow as more value moves on chain, versus an administrative repricing where it's fixed. Again, just my 2 cents on it. Back to the original question, why aren't people buying it up? They are. They're buying it up on the OTC desk in the dark pools, which isn't moving the price on the exchanges. And institutions are extremely sophisticated, if you didn't already know that. They employ people, they employ quants and analysts to be able to help them get the highest return. We've seen a couple people divest, both Citi and Goldman, from their XRP and Solana ETFs. Why would they do that? Well, when we saw a run up last week, and now we've seen the market retrace, they could have been strategically taking profits on those trades. They didn't have a huge allocation. $1.7 million isn't a ton for a large financial institution, but it is, an allocation. So for them, taking profit on that probably makes a lot of sense. And they could then buy back in at a lower price, which now we're at. We saw it dip back down to 136. We're still hanging out around 20 to 2, that $1.40 mark. So that's my thesis on that. I think that it needs to be a coordinated effort across all the different counterparties to drive the price to where they need it to be, and they know that it needs to be an orchestrated deal in order to accomplish that. So that's my tinfoil hat on why we're not seeing huge buy volume across the exchanges and driving price up higher than what it currently is.